did not leave the meeting this time. I'm getting better at that. Usually I hit leave meeting. Like, no, don't record me. Hey, everybody, I'm Risa. My pronouns are she, her. I am partners with Amanda in the food distribution of the Love Fridge. And I also do a lot of volunteer coordination, just kind of part of doing food distribution is also coordinating volunteers. I onboard a lot of hosts. Sort of recently, I took that on. I answer a lot of emails. That's probably why I onboard a lot of hosts, because that's where they tend to show up first. And I co-host a large number of fridges that honestly, I probably should have written out that list like Amanda did, but I can't remember how many, but they're all over the South and West side. And so that's, that's kind of my area of distribution is the South and West side. So yeah, we're pretty excited to talk to all of you because we for sure need all the people power we can get. We had a really big, strong, everybody came out real strong in the summer and fall last year when the weather was good. And then typically as the winter drags on in Chicago, we're all kind of feeling the blues of the winter, and our volunteer efforts have fallen off a little bit, but we really need everybody who can jump in to make it happen, because we're just a small little band of people with a few SUVs and trucks. So we can't get around to all these fridges. And at this point we have 24 fridges in 18 neighborhoods. But we're adding a few more fridges in the next few weeks. And one of our up and coming hosts is here. Hi, Dan Goldberg. Good to see you. So Dan's going to have a fridge in the South Loop. We've got another fridge, actually another 2 fridges that are going to be going up in the back of the yards. So the back of the yards neighborhood is going to kind of be like its own unit now. We're going to have about 5 fridges there, which is sort of how Little Village in Pilsen is too. So yeah, we've got, we're gonna keep expanding, and we just need the people power to keep it going. And so we're here to kind of give everybody an idea of what that looks like. And I'm gonna kick it back over to Amanda.
Yeah, and I just wanted anyone else who's in the Love Fridge team or is a current volunteer, can you just wave and say hi? There's a lot of us here. And then just as an icebreaker, I literally hate icebreakers, so it's not really an icebreaker, I promise. But just to see who's here, if you have ever managed a fridge, will you throw up an emoji? If you don't know how to do that, it's at the bottom of your screen. Any emoji will do. So if you've managed a fridge, throw up an emoji. Cool, cool, cool. Awesome. James. And if you've distributed food already, can you throw up an emoji in the chat or in the Zoom? Nice. And if you've done both, one more. Yes. Okay, cool. Sweet. So just to give you guys an overview of what we're going to be talking about tonight. First, we're going to talk about food distribution and pickups. We do a bunch of pickups all over the city where people donate food on a reoccurring basis or on an impromptu basis, and we go pick it up and we take it to fridges. So we'll talk about that. We'll hear from some volunteers who you just saw who already do that and have some expertise to lend. And we'll take questions on anything regarding food distribution. Then we'll talk about fridge management, which is essentially just going to a fridge, cleaning it, making sure it's accessible for everyone, filling out a checklist so that we all know that the fridge is good to go. And yeah, we'll do the same thing. We'll hear from current fridge managers, and you guys can ask questions. And as for going along, questions are totally welcome in the chat. That's totally fine. So I will kick it back to Risa. Let's talk food distro. If you want to just give us an overview of the reoccurring pickups that we do, the impromptu pickups that we are doing. We just picked up a really exciting impromptu situation. And then any tips, tricks, things to bring with you, what fridges to go to once you've picked up the food. Go for it.
Yeah, we have a lot of pickups going on right now. So I'm going to kind of break it down into a few different groups. The first one is kind of what we call like our big distribution, and those typically happen on Wednesdays and Thursdays. Right now, they're also happening on Fridays, but that's going to end this week. This will be the last big Friday, and then they'll move over to Saturdays, which is great because that opens up the pool for a lot more people who work Monday through Friday and don't have the ability to do these big pickups during that time. So that information I'll be getting to you a little bit, but basically on Wednesdays, it's kind of a huge distribution day. We have multiple pickups for sign up, which is another way we get people on board. But we have basically, we pick up, Amanda and I generally meet at Imperfect Foods, and we pick up somewhere between 300 to 500 pounds of food in our trucks and SUVs, divided up and then split up. I head to Pilsen Food Pantry. She heads to the Northwest Side fridges. At Pilsen Food Pantry, I meet with several other volunteers. I think most of them are here tonight. Molly, Emily might not be here, but Molly, Christy, and the four of us load our vehicles up with even more food. And I divide up the food that I have from Imperfect and spread it out to them. We also have a new partnership that we're doing with Chicago Period Project. So right now in my car, I have 10 fridges worth of pads and tampons. It's like filling my car to the point where I don't actually have any room for food right now. So I will hand those off to the other drivers tomorrow, and they'll drive those to other fridges and stock the pantries and sometimes inside the refrigerator with these very critical materials that we need to fight period poverty. So that's a really awesome extra thing that we have going on. But as you can see, the car starts to fill up really fast with all of these things. And then from there, we spread out. And on Wednesdays, the reason it's so big is we go to Pilsen Food Pantry twice. We start out there first thing in the morning, fill up our cars. And then what I'd like to do is have a second round of people meet me at 1 o'clock. Just so as not to wear out that first round of people, where we load up even more stuff. Pilsen Food Pantry gets their big donation from GCFD, Greater Chicago Food Depository, on Wednesdays, and they've included food that we've asked for. So a lot of times we'll get, many, many cases of eggs if those are available. I think tomorrow we have butter, produce, and milk, which is very exciting. So, we need a whole second round of people to do that at 1 o'clock and kind of spread back out across the city. So those are pickups that we coordinate more like one-on-one. So that's where like the volunteer coordination, where you'd be talking to like either me or Amanda more specifically, would happen. And then we have our signups, which are all on our website, and they're under reoccurring donations on our website. There's a little button that says sign up, and you can click on that and pick a date, and it will show you what's available. And those are things like, we have 50 hot meals from the hatchery. We've got meals almost, Tuesday through Sunday, the leftover meals from Kimski and Community Kitchen in Bridgeport we pick up. We have meals from Moms that happens twice a week. There's 100 on Monday and 50 on Thursday. And a lot of times we'll be like very open-ended, like just pick these up and take them to the fridges of your choice. The exception to that being the Monday Moms pickup. Since there's so many meals, we don't want everybody, we've split it up into 2 pickups, and we don't want everybody to go to the same fridges. So we kind of indicate like you're going to sign up for the X amount of fridges on the south and west side and X amount of fridges on the west and northwest side, just so everything doesn't end up in one area and the whole Love Fridge unit, the whole network gets some of that food. Then we have some smaller pickups from Jeff and Jude's. Split Rail is a new one. And so these are all things that you can like literally say like, where is that? Oh, is that in my neighborhood? Can I do that? Does that fit into my schedule? And we super appreciate it because it's how we just keep the food rolling in the fridges through these wonderful partnerships with restaurants that are totally supporting us by wanting to cook meals for the fridges. It's just the most amazing thing. And then we have impromptu pickups, and those 99% of the time happen in our Slack food distribution channel. So if this is something that you feel like you really want to do, we can add you to our Slack food distribution channel, and you'll be notified, if you keep your notifications on, of any kind of impromptu last minute pickups that are going to be typically either that day or the next day. And those can include things like, for instance, Dan Goldberg, who's going to be one of our new hosts. I keep pointing over there because that's where he is on my screen. Dan Goldberg is a food photographer, and he has like hit us up and said like, hey, you guys, I have a ton of dairy and butter and come grab it. So, you know, one driver went over there and did that and distributed it to a few fridges. Additionally, I think Brady is in this call. I was recently connected with him through, oh gosh, I just forgot, through Diane. And Diane hooked us up, and Brady works for Instacart, and he's been giving us, donating, you know, like moving the donations along from canceled orders over to us. And that's been almost every day. So those impromptu pickups, we post about it in our Slack channel, and it's very open-ended. It's like, hey, who can go pick up 10 bags of groceries from this specific Mariano's? And you can pretty much do it anytime that store is open. So those have been really great for people who don't have the maybe like availability during the working hours of the day, but can go after work and pick it up. It's been amazing. We love that. Thank you so much, Brady. And I think I've hit the highlights. Amanda, did I miss anything?
You nailed it. Just to talk about a couple of things that we've learned on the ground that are helpful to have with you as you're driving around. Sharpies for labeling prepared meals or unlabeled food. Sometimes we get these delicious like meals and they just don't say what's in them. We really don't put any food in the fridge if it's not labeled with ingredients, just for obvious reasons, allergies, etc. So bring a Sharpie with you if you're doing one of these pickups. We will also try and tell you if it's a pickup that we know you'll need boxes or crates for. Risa and I have so many crates that we get from these pickups, so we are happy to give you some. Yeah, and then as an aside, usually as we're delivering food to these fridges, we do a bit of cleaning at the fridge when we're there, even though we're not doing fridge management. It's just to help out, and you're already there, and if it needs a wipe down and you've got Clorox wipes in your car, it's just that easy. So those are a couple of tips and tricks that we've learned. Do I have any food distribution volunteers that want to talk about their experience doing a particular pickup, or any tips that they've learned as they've been driving around? Floor is open, as Ramon says.
I can't even everyone. Yeah, there's so many people. Amy, did you want to say something?
I mean, I was just gonna say it's been so great. I joined a couple of months ago. I've been pretty consistently delivering on Fridays, picking up with Risa and then going to various fridges on the south and west side. It's been such an incredible way to stay involved and stay connected in the community, and super safe to do during COVID. Like, it's really easy to stay distanced from people. Everyone I've met at the fridges that are coming to get food are really mindful about distance and like waiting until I'm done, or asking me to like pause, and then I'll back away while they get what they need, and then I'll come back in. I work 3 to 4 days a week in a hospital. And so this has been such a great heart filler for me, to just be able to kind of give back. Volunteering is something I've always loved doing, but it was impacted so much by coronavirus, and all of the ways that I was previously volunteering kind of ended suddenly. And so finding Love Fridge and finding you guys has been amazing. And I'm just really excited and curious for ways that I can be doing more and getting more involved.
That's awesome. Thank you, Amy. Yeah, you've been a lifesaver. Many a Thursday I've reached out and been like, Amy, are you available Friday? And she rearranges her schedule to come help me move around.
Yeah,
so.
I'm always off on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So I'm a good go-to for random stuff that comes up. And then I am still, Risa, looking for a shelf unit for Kindness Corner, because they definitely need one. I'm just looking for like a super cheap one, or somebody that's willing to give away like a $10 one for free on Craigslist, but I'll keep you posted.
Okay, sounds amazing. Yeah, you can tell James about it too if you do, because he's our builder and that fridge is a little insane.
Yeah, that fridge it's getting wild.
And that's kind of another cool thing about volunteering is like we typically don't micromanage. It's very much like a please take this here, but if it doesn't fit, use your best judgment to take it somewhere else. And a lot of our volunteers are coming from the northwest sides and the north side, but we need them to go to the south side. We need people to get out of their kind of bubble and go to a different area. And so a lot of the folks have been really open to like us sending them down pretty far away to almost Indiana and seeing what that part of the city looks like. And then also if they end up with too much food, they always know they can take it back up to the northwest side. And they've got the dirt farms in Carniceria, up in their neighborhood that the food flies out of like that. So we don't micromanage people. We really want people to use their best judgment. Like this is not, we're not anybody's bosses. So we want you to encounter the fridge, see what's going on, and then make a determination about what needs to be done for that fridge in that moment.
I just wanted to answer Elizabeth's question really quick. Scheduled pickups and the sign up link that I linked in the chat, they're the same thing. So all of those pickups that you can sign up for via that online form are reoccurring. They happen every single week. And this may not be everyone's situation, but I think that that is actually the best way if you're a first-time volunteer, because you sign up, you know exactly where you need to be, exactly how to get there. You just pop it into Google Maps. And more often than not, you can distribute that food, unless otherwise noted, to whichever fridges are on your way to where you're going. We do not have an Amazon registry for food, but I totally understand that. We have alternate ways of donating. I mean, we do accept cash donations. We have an open collective account, so you can actually see everyone who's ever donated, how much they've donated, where that money that was donated is going to. So if that's something that you prefer to do, we're happy to do that. And Chicago Period Project, yes. They actually do have an Amazon wish list for the drive that we're doing now. So if you want to donate those items instead of food, we'll gladly accept that. And we can throw that link in the chat too.
And then I think Amy had asked a question too a little bit earlier about the canceled Instacart orders. Amy, those are really coming in impromptu. Like Brady will just text me and be like, hey, Risa, I have this Instacart order that's canceled and here's the information. And then you're in our Slack. So, I throw it up as like a, hey, at channel, everybody, here's the information. Here's where it's going to be. And here's kind of like the amount and quantity. So far, none of those have been so large that you would need more than like a regular car to do. So that's good. Did that answer your question, Amy?
Yeah, I just didn't know if there were additional groceries to try to do the same, pitch to. If it was Mariano's that's already taken care of, but if Jewel or, there's other, avenues of collecting some of those canceled orders. I feel like other groceries are doing those online ordering.
So Brady would probably
Brady
would probably be the better one to answer that since it's a relatively new relationship between he and I, but we have had pickups at Jewel's and some other stores too. Brady, did you want to try to?
Yeah, I don't mind popping in real quick. Hi, folks. My name is Brady. I'm one of the shift leads for Instacart here in Chicago. I am being one of the people that is being laid off by Instacart coming up in a month. So Instacart's changed its business model and is terminating its in-store positions. So my job was to manage the shoppers that spent all day in the store just shopping and then having people pick up. So the timeline on our current relationship is ending in a month. But basically what I'm doing right now is looking to see and working with Instacart here in Chicago, but also possibly on a larger scale to see if we can talk about this relationship in other markets where this style of impromptu last minute pickup is an option. I'm also going to talk about the possibility of connecting with our Chicago market to see if the Love Fridge could be a suggested donation for when our full service, our contractors, which will in the future be doing all of the business, if they have orders that they get canceled on, customers not available, etc. I'm hoping that we can figure out a way to tap specifically into that. That, however, is on a national level. So initially right now, we're just grabbing what we can, and this is the very beginning of hopefully something big to come.
Thanks, Brady. Appreciate that.
One other point that I wanted to make before we move on to fridge management about these signups for the reoccurring distribution slots is it's totally fine if you've signed up and something pops up or 2 feet of snow has appeared outside and you can't do it. Totally fine. Just shoot us an email so that we know. Occasionally people will unsign up if they become unavailable on the website, and we don't get a notification, and the worst thing that can happen is that that food gets thrown away, and we just want to avoid that at all costs. So if you shoot us an email at thelovefridgechicago@gmail.com, we can rescue it somehow. Yeah, and now we can move on to fridge management. Risa, do you want to give an overview of that one?
Sure, I can do that. So fridge management can look really different depending on if you are delivering food or if you are signed up for fridge management. And it can look really different from fridge to fridge. So there are fridges that are constantly emptied and filled over and over again. James's fridge would be a great example of that. It's our flagship fridge. It was the first one we put down, and it's at 21st in California. And so it's probably one of our like most well-known fridges in terms of just its longevity and how many people.
Risa, you got muted.
How did that happen?
You were just talking about how great my fridge is.
It is really. But you can, that's so weird. I don't know how I did that. I didn't touch anything. But basically James's fridge, and a lot of fridges like can be filled and emptied many times a day. And sometimes they are filled by people who are like us and who, you know, are a little like fastidious about everything being neatly merchandised and organized so people can see all the food. And sometimes they're filled by somebody who is in a hurry, and maybe it's a school employee from one of the Chicago public schools, and they have a ton of leftover breakfasts and lunches from the school that they're donating, and those open the door and like cram all the bags in. So when you show up for fridge management and you find a situation like that, it's kind of imperative to coordinate and organize things in such a way. And I mean, I'm a little nuts. I'll open up all of the bags and kind of stage everything out, because otherwise they just get torn into and they turn into a hot mess. So I'll take all the cereals out of the bags and put them in the pantry instead of the fridge. And then I take all the little milks and I line them all up, you know, because that's how my brain works. Yeah, Amanda is saying she does that too. This is why we're like this. So that's part of it, is like making everything easy to see and easy to get to, so that nobody has to come up and like shove everything out of the way and mess up a bunch of food that was perfectly good. The other part is, of course, like wiping down the fridges and sanitizing everything, and then checking for things that are not properly labeled and tossing those things. So for fridge management, it's always good to have a trash bag. Sometimes some gloves. I have found some very questionable situations going on. You know, it's the kind of thing that'll make you question, like, why am I doing this? But it needs to be done. These are, yeah, it's gross, but that needs to be done. And you feel very good about yourself after you've cleaned a community fridge, because you really know you made a dent in you made a dent in the community. You did something really good there. Paper towels, like I love Clorox wipes and all that stuff, but I will say, paper towels and some good kitchen spray kind of go a long way for me. I've upgraded away from the straight up Clorox wipes to that. And then just making sure everything's like really well organized if it's still in the fridge. And, you know, we don't typically have to throw out old produce. I think this probably the last few weeks we would have had to, because of frozen produce, which is kind of unusual. But typically we will, you know, compost the produce. James has a compost at his house. A lot of the fridges on the south and west side are attached to community gardens or directly to people's residents who compost. And then quite a few of our regular fridge managers and food distributors also have compost at their own homes. So they'll be like, "Ooh, I found an old carrot. I'm going to take it home to my compost," which is just kind of funny. So, you know, we always encourage that. We encourage like less waste and more sustainability. So I think did I cover it?
Yes, yeah. Just to talk about the how-to of fridge management, how to sign up, what it looks like when you arrive, the systems that we use for keeping track of these things. So our sign-up system for fridge management is just like the reoccurring food distribution sign-up. It's the same page with a lot of ads on it. Sorry, we're balling on a budget. But, so you sign up for whichever fridge you want to manage. It can be one that's near you, although I highly recommend taking a field trip and going somewhere that is not near you. I've done my best to get to every single fridge. There are a couple that I can't because they're closed when they're open when I'm working, etc. But it's really fun to try and hit them all. But so once you've signed up for your fridge management slot, it'll say an AM slot or a PM slot. That does not mean that you have to stick around the fridge all morning or all night. Please don't do that. You can just go clean the fridge. When you're done, get out of there. So go on your allotted time and day, and when you get there, you'll see a QR code on a tag attached to either the fridge handle or inside the fridge. We've noticed that with all the snow, they've sort of started falling off of the handles, so we're putting them on the inside. But once you see that QR tag, all you have to do is take out your phone and hover your camera over that QR code, and it'll pull up the fridge management checklist. This checklist just basically asks you questions about the status of the fridge, whether you sanitized the handles, if you threw out food that was bad, if you picked up trash around the fridge, things of that nature. And this just helps all of us as a team feel like we have eyes on the fridge at all times because there's no possible way that all of us can be in 24 places at once all the time. So this is a super, super helpful way for us to see what's going on. And there's also room for you to write if there is a situation at a fridge, say there are 4 boxes of cilantro sitting in a pile of snow and we need to know about it. You know, that's the perfect place to put that kind of information. And nothing is too weird. We have truly seen it all at the fridges. Yeah, and as far as most needed coverage, I saw someone had this question in the chat. That is a wonderful question. We need coverage for fridge managers everywhere. These fridges get so much use, like open, close, constantly. And fridges are not really built for that. They're not built to be outside. They're not built to have 100 people touching the doors every single day. So they do get dirty. Like they do need love. So as far as like slots that are remaining open, if you scroll up in the chat, you'll see the sign up form. And if you click on that sign up form, it'll just give you a list of all the fridges, and it'll actually say on the right-hand column, so many out of 100 slots filled. If you see that that bar is really low, just sign up for that fridge. Just take a field trip if you can, if you have the means, just go. Yeah, Risa, do you have any other?
Yeah, I would say the other thing that you might encounter as a fridge manager and as a food distribution person is the fridge that is overfilling with all kinds of weird stuff that might not belong in that fridge. Meaning we do have a couple of, well, we have a decent amount of refrigerators that are not, they don't have freezers. And right now, the last few weeks, it hasn't really mattered because of the temperatures. But when the local food pantries get overrun with a lot of meat that's pushed along to them, they don't have the storage capacity for it either. So they take it to our fridges and they put a lot of meat into the fridges. And when it's warm outside and those items don't stay frozen because it's in a refrigerator versus a freezer. So sometimes you're kind of doing a creative, like, where can I take this? Or it might be like a complete waste. Unfortunately, it might just be that meat has kind of defrosted to the point where it really does need to be thrown away. We encourage everyone to use their best judgment when they're doing fridge management and food distribution. If you would not want to come to a community fridge and see that, then it's probably something that should be thrown away, because ultimately what we're doing is we want to make sure we treat everybody who's using the fridge with, with honor and giving them a safe space and quality food. And so we don't like to leave anything behind that we wouldn't personally eat either. So I just wanted to add that, because it will certainly happen. You'll open a fridge and be like, what the heck happened in here? And it may feel kind of gross throwing away a bunch of stuff, but it's better than leaving it for somebody who needed food to come find.
Yeah, I guess we've sort of talked about the things that you find when you open a fridge that are a little like, ugh. But the flip side of this is that doing fridge management is a really fantastic way to meet people who are using the fridge and to talk to them, see what their needs are. We have an ongoing list of each fridge and the community requests that we've received at those fridges. A lot of the time we get people who email us and they're like, I want to donate food, but I don't want to donate the wrong thing, or like, I don't want to assume what the community needs. And this is a great crowdsourcing way for us to gather all of that information and like give it to those people who want to give us food. So any fridge management volunteers that feel inclined to talk about their experiences or while they're cleaning the fridges or talking to the community, feel free to take the floor.
I have a quick question, actually. And it kind of was brought up by something I think you were just saying about how do you guys think about like keeping track of the things that are entered into the fridge, and like seeing like whether or not certain things in certain fridges are more popular or less popular, and like, distributing according to that model?
Risa, do you want to take this one or you want me to take this one?
Do we have 3 hours for this one? That's a huge question. It's a great question. It's a really important question. We got 19 answers for it, but Risa, go for it.
I will speak to the fridges that I frequent, okay, because I don't go to all 24 of them all the time, although I do at least try to hit up those north side fridges about every 6 weeks just to remember, see what's going on up there. Because I go on usually Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, I can get a good feel for what's been sitting there too long. And especially if it was something that I know we sent out the previous week, even if it's still good, I'll take it and I'll just move it to another fridge. So for instance, like a few weeks ago, I put, like 9 heads of cauliflower at Getting Grown in Inglewood. And then 2 days later I went and it was still there. And I'm like, okay, cauliflower, not a big thing in Inglewood. And I took it to a little village fridge where people were like taking it out of my hands. So it's really for me, it's just about doing it a lot. But then we have some fridges that we know for sure that our unhoused members of our community access quite frequently. And so we try to put more like grab and go foods there. That's been requested. So anything that doesn't require being reheated, pre-made sandwiches, yogurts, fruit cups, anything that you can eat kind of much more easily without any preparation. We do, Amanda and I are very mindful, at least when we're at Imperfect Produce, of splitting up those kind of things. And then also culturally appropriate foods for certain areas. So, if I going to Pilsen and Little Village, if I get somebody gives us like a bunch of tortillas, I'm for sure going to take those there. Not to say nobody else wants tortillas, but we know for sure Little Village is going to want tortillas. But to that point, we also don't make assumptions about what the community would want. And so we really will put almost anything anywhere and encourage people to try new food. And I can say personally that I have had that conversation with people where they're like, what is this? And I'm like, it's a kumquat. And they're like, I've never had a kumquat before. And I'm like, you should take that bag of kumquats and try it. And then the next day they were like, the next time I see them, they were like, that was really good. You have any more of those kumquats? And I'm like, no, I don't, because that was a one-time thing. Yeah, tofu was another one. We were like encouraging people, like, you've never had tofu? Give it a try. It's free, So in these ways, people are also able to try food that they might not want to spend their money on, but maybe we get a convert from. Who knows? I don't know if I answered your question.
I want to touch on that though too as well, because like Amanda and Risa and the distribution team get so much food to these refrigerators but they don't get all the foods in their refrigerators. So much of it is community supported. And just as Ramon mentioned in the comments, no policing. Absolutely, we care about, quality produce, quality food, what people can cook with, that they may need. But ultimately, we get all sorts of wackadoo food, but and when I say that, that's already me judging it. Like, I wouldn't eat a box of macaroni and cheese now that I'm 40, but when I was 28, I was all over that. But we get boxes of this stuff. We get boxes of potato flakes. We get all sorts of weird stuff that I've never heard of. But ultimately we don't direct it. We get food from the pantries. We get food from these FDA boxes. We get the dreaded egg bag, some meat bags. We ask for no raw meat, absolutely. But when it comes to the meat bags, ultimately they found their audience. But we had months where we didn't know what to do with all of this meat. And but the donations come in from everywhere and anywhere, and ultimately they will be they find their home. And if they don't, then we move it out of there too. We do post about discouraging raw meat, and we do post about discouraging I can't remember the last thing we've ever actually discouraged other than raw meat, other than just really asking people being respectful of the expiration dates, and because that that's just courtesy at the least. I don't know how much further I want to go on that, but I do see a raised hand from Amy Bartucci. Is that a question that you're asking, Amy?
Yeah, it's real quick. I hope it's not too specific, but when Risa was talking about the school meals that were placed in the fridges, I have a specific question about that, just making sure I'm hearing correctly. It's hard to make those look nice and stacked. I mean, they're randomly in little small plastic bags and things, but I find it hard to know how long it's been there. And I'm kind of like torn between taking them, knowing I have something better to put in there, or leaving them in there. And I just don't know if there's like a what does this team think about that food and leaving it in there? If it's questionable, like some of the drumsticks don't seem to last long, and I've really had a hard time throwing away food, but I wanted to hear what the policy might be here.
I'm happy to take this one. Oh, the meat bags. Okay. So there really isn't a good answer to this question because food waste sucks. But we are so deeply inundated with these meat bags because they come from USDA, and they come from USDA via the food boxes that we ourselves get and distribute to the fridges, and also the Greater Chicago Food Depository and other pantries. Once they've let their communities go through all of those boxes, they take what's left over to the fridges, which is great, and we love it. But oftentimes it's meat bags. So my MO generally is usually I'm hitting the same fridges pretty frequently. So I'm keeping eyes on how long those bags have been there. Sometimes they do move at certain fridges. So, with those fridges, just leave them because they will go. But if I've noticed they've been sitting there for like a week, I usually do take them and toss them, because there does come a point, like I know at Totem or in Logan Square, they'll just fill the freezer and you can't put other food in there, And so if it gets to that point where you're like actually building a wall between people getting food because of the meat bags, take the meat bags out, put in something fresh. That's that. And it really does suck to throw it away, but again, use your best judgment. If you're at the fridge all the time, you can kind of judge.
Yeah, and I think I didn't mean to sound judgmental to say something better, but I do mean fresher, something that I know for sure would be, just something that might be sought after more than the bagged meat and the things that are coming from the small lunches. But I think I'm not at the fridges often enough as you to understand how long something's been sitting there. So that's the other thing, the concern of a manager who may not have been there, in a week, and wondering how long that may have been sitting.
Yeah.
So I'll do my best.
Yeah. And I would say, Amy, like, that's why we really want to give everybody autonomy. And like, we don't want to turn into like bosses of what can stay and what can go, because like we were saying earlier, if you go to a fridge and you know you have a bunch of like beautiful produce and fresh food to put in there, but you can't fit it in there because there's these little like bagged up frozen green bean things that are, you know, in a tray, which I find everywhere. You know, you can leave some of them. It's what I tend to do. And I take some of them, I toss some of them, and then I make room. You know, I try not to do like a full throwaway, because I do think there are people accessing that food specifically to repurpose it. And I don't want to take that from them either. But I do want to make room for like other food that other people might want who aren't looking for the frozen green beans or the frozen corn or whatever's going on in there. Those school lunches are they're tricky. You know, there's a weird mishmash of stuff. You were talking about the drumsticks. Yeah, I have a tendency to like toss some of that stuff, because if it starts to look gray, like I said, if I'm not going to eat it, I don't think anybody else is going to eat it. We don't want to practice this idea that like, oh, you're starving, so you get what you get. That's absolutely not what we're going for here.
Yeah. I agree with you. I just don't want to throw away too much food. So I know it's there and somebody would take some of it, but I actually can't leave it all sometimes because it's just too many.
Yeah.
And I know that we could stock
like
more things in there.
Yeah, sometimes it's like that. I've Star Farms in back of the yards is a fridge that things kind of tend to kind of collect at, and it doesn't maybe have the audience for some of these foods. And so I will, you know, every couple of weeks go through with a garbage bag and just do a huge clean out there. And it's heartbreaking, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, I made room for some real food. Maybe people are passing that fridge by because they open it and they're like, no. And then they, you know, they're not fridge managing. They're just trying to drop off food, and they open it up and they're like, no, I'm moving to a different fridge because there's like another fridge a couple of blocks away. So now the people at Star Farms are missing out on great food because there's all this like old food that none of us feel comfortable throwing away. No. So we try to, you know, again, use your best judgment. That's really what we're all about. We're all trying to create sustainability, but we're also trying to make healthy environments, and we don't want things sitting around too long.
Yeah, and this is the last thing I'll say about it, but I didn't know if there was a way to ask whomever is getting the lunches from CPS, if that's where they're coming from, for example, just to label them, you know, by date. And I know that might be really tricky to do because there's so many small bags, but if they were in a bag and it all said, you know, a date, it might be, but I know it would be not as visible then.
I think what's going on, and I've seen them be dropped off. I literally think it's like an administrator or cafeteria worker or a parent from the school who's agreed to take that on and they just drive up to a fridge and open up the fridge and like shove them in. So I don't think it's anybody that's like necessarily at the pay rate of organizing that level. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah. And just to piggyback off of that before we move on, if you're out doing food distribution or fridge management, I highly recommend that you try some of the food that either you're putting into the fridge or that you're taking out of the fridge. I have personally tried the meat bags and the egg bags. And honestly, the eggs are not bad. You just have to be willing to eat an entire bag of eggs at once. But yeah, I mean, it's informative to know, like, if it's not something that you're into or that like you don't feel comfortable eating, then other people are not going to feel comfortable eating it either. Yeah. Okay. So moving on, visions for the future. So we have a bunch of cool stuff coming up in the summer. Just to do a quick overview, we'll be starting a new campaign called Buy Two, Give One with all of the farmers markets in Chicago, where customers will be able to go to a farmer's market, and instead of just buying 1 carrot, they can buy 2 carrots, they get 1 and we get 1. And it'll be a huge distribution effort for farmers markets who don't have access to the farmers market app. Will actually be physically there at a farmer's market, sitting at a table and saying, hi, do you want to buy 2 things and give us 1? It's going to be so fun. Also, we're putting down new fridges, of course. We've kind of sort of been waiting until it gets warmer to do this. But we've got fridges in the works in back of the yards, Austin, South Loop, Humboldt Park, potentially Rogers Park. So yeah, lots happening. Yeah, Risa, do you want to talk more about the Buy Two, Give One?
Yeah, this was really exciting. And we didn't conceive of it. We're not even going to even remotely act like we came up with this idea. It's the brainchild of a really smart full of really smart people who were fortunate enough to reach out to us and say, we want to do this with you. And we did it with the South Loop Farmers Market for this whole kind of last winter. And it was pretty successful considering farmers markets in the winter are not that well trafficked, but they really know what they're doing. And they wanted to open it up to the larger farmers market collective. So they use an app called What's Good. And probably the biggest challenge is getting the farmers to kind of, put all their newest product and make sure everything's on there. And it's not just farmers, by the way, it's also like meat, cooked foods. There's a really incredible empanada that I'm just always going to rave about. This empanadas, I can't remember what the name of the company is, but if you ever run across a fridge that has some empanadas in them, I suggest trying them. And so they can buy one, they can buy two and give one. And they are, it's just a really genius idea to create this full circle economy where the farmers need the people to buy, right? They've been impacted by COVID just like we have. And the markets need people to come. And then what they're going to do is they're going to do a lot of it online, and then they'll do a big aggregation on the north side. So we're ironing out the details in the next few weeks, but it's definitely going to be one of these signups. If we can figure that out, it'll be a situation where you kind of sign up and we'll be assigning like a cluster of fridges like we normally do for big full scale distribution. And you'll go pick up like a handful. I don't know. We have no idea yet. We have no idea what this is going to look like, but hopefully you're going to pick up like a bunch of grocery bags or boxes or crates or something of produce and eggs, milk, meat, cheeses, all kinds of great stuff, and then distribute them to like a cluster of fridges that you've kind of signed up to do. And the nice thing is that a lot of our volunteers with cars are coming from the north side and the northwest side. So this aggregation will actually be on the north side. But we do need that great stuff to get all the way down to the south side and the east side and Inglewood and West Lawn too. Like you can't just stay up in that north side neighborhood, so we'll be really doing a big push to make sure all of that stuff gets spread out across the city in a really equitable way. But yes, we're very excited about that. And I'm trying to think, you were talking about farmers markets. Yeah, we're going to have kind of hopefully do like a call out for people who want to, hang out for a couple hours at a farmer's market on a beautiful day and sit at a table and talk about all sorts of things for being a Love Fridge volunteer and distribution and fridge management, and like hopefully really activate the communities and get them excited about doing all these things. So yeah, I think and then Amanda had hit on the new fridges that we have coming up. So yeah, we've got a couple new fridges. We're going to have two actually in the back of the arts neighborhood, and then one in the South Loop for sure. One or two in West Humboldt Park. Yeah, lots of good stuff going on. So there will be fridges coming near you and they will need love and they will need attention. And we are very excited for everybody to jump in and help us out with that stuff.
Yeah. And I just wanted to quickly address a couple of questions that we maybe missed in the chat. Amy had asked earlier on how to go about hosting a fridge. This is a lengthy process at this point. We have a questionnaire that we ask potential hosts. We present our community agreement just to make sure that we're totally aligned, that the location is accessible and part of the community, etc. So the best way to get that process started is to email us. And then we'll start asking questions, we'll start a conversation and make sure it's a good fit for both of us. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question, Amy.
Yes, it does. And am I coming up with an ideal location? Like, am I presenting a location? Yeah, okay.
If that's something that you feel prepared to do, we do also get a ton of emails that are like, my neighborhood needs a fridge. I don't have the answer about where, but it needs one. And we welcome those conversations too. We just, it's more of a, okay, so how do we do outreach? How do we find a potential location together?
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, and just touching, like jumping off of that a little bit more, because it is a question that comes up a lot. And so I'll just go ahead and answer it here where we have a lot of people present. We do prioritize hosts that are already doing community work. that do have food access, because we're not a vendor. We don't buy food. All of our food comes on donation. So, and of course we're here like begging more people to join our efforts. So you can see like our resource potential for people power is already kind of stretched thin. So we want to make sure that those, you know, the ultimate goal of a community fridge is to have the community support it. So we want to make sure that those places are really like built and baked into the community. And likewise, you know, we are not looking for host relationships where the host might just be looking to leverage the cultural capital of having a Love Fridge at its location and flexing that on the gram, but not doing much for the community. We really, really value that community relationship, and it's an absolute essential part of how we determine hosts at this point. Additionally, like because it's cold and we're so spread thin, we are prioritizing places that can build their own shelters. The last couple of fridges that have gone up, everybody's been able to build their own shelter. So that's been really key for why they were even able to put down a fridge in the winter. Yeah, so, but like I said, like Amanda said, definitely reach out to us and we'll give you that questionnaire. And that's a good place to start when you're trying to figure out what a host relationship looks like. And then most importantly is the community agreement that we attach to that I suggest everybody read and really, really absorb, because it is our ethos and practice. And we really determine how we align with people based on that.
And I want to add to that too. This is not, the Love Fridge is not the government of community fridges for the city of Chicago or for any other city. If people come to us in the community agreement and certain things don't align, or if they have everything they need and the process and timing is taking a little longer than they wish to, by all means, we encourage others to start their own community fridge movement. And we've been approached this way. And it's really awesome when there are other community fridge movements that do exist in the city. It's really awesome, and we're in solidarity in ways to build. And so yeah, I just wanted to put that and add that into there too. If anybody here is thinking about doing that, it's by all means, we have other ways to build with you on that as well.
Hey, I want to touch on that solidarity and complete knowledge share. Nothing we're doing here is a secret. We want to empower you if you choose to go on your own. We've learned so much, and we are happy to talk with you. We're happy to share any information we have. I'm happy to share plans about how to build a shelter. We can talk about what it takes to do Google Forms for volunteer sign up, all of that. Absolutely.
And also we can link you into a wider community fridge movement, which exists in multiple cities that we have a conversation with many different cities. We have been doing a regular monthly thing for the last couple months, especially with the colder cities similar to ours. So that's a Slack and a Zoom or certain things that we can plug in and continue to build this forward.
Yeah, absolutely. We are 100% open source. We share everything that we have, resources, all of the ideas on how to source food. Amanda and I are happy to talk to anybody who's setting up a community fridge outside of Chicago so that they can start a conversation with pantries or restaurants or places around them to get that ball rolling. We did not invent this. We are not reinventing the wheel. We are literally just sharing the information on how to do this. And we completely support everybody's mission to bring community fridges everywhere. We just use our ethos and our practice to make sure we align as a Love Fridge. I think Amy had asked if we were doing Love Fridges outside of the city of Chicago. And Amy, we really kind of labored over that point, but we decided not to. We decided to keep our focus for Love Fridges within the city of Chicago, where we can, like, our core group and our volunteers can access and get to those locations and be supportive to those locations. And unfortunately, as people start to spread out to the suburbs, we just can't be there. So we can't, if there's an issue with liability, if there's an issue with the alderman, we don't have really any control over that. It's outside of the city of Chicago. So we just determined, but we are always like happy to share that information when people hit us up. We're like, here, start your own, in solidarity, and ask us a million questions, because we're still learning too. So if we don't know, we'll just start asking other people.
All right, in our last couple of minutes, I just want to open up the floor to anyone who has any logistic questions about signing up for fridge management or food distribution, or how that works, or anything that we may have missed. Feel free to ask a question in the chat or with your voice.
Hi, everybody. My name is Yoshi. I actually just moved on 56 in Michigan, and I saw that one of your fridges is actually my favorite color. It was purple. It was in front of a corner convenience store. So, as far as I opened it, I don't believe that there was any food inside of it. So, I didn't know if you guys went as far as like what the donation process is. Like, I'm interested in managing two and cleaning two of the refrigerators, and I overheard you guys say what the processes are and what you would need to do. So I'm totally interested in that. I'm gonna sign up for sure. But as far as like individual refrigerators, like say if one's empty, I know that you guys go and visit all of the fridges, but if it's one that's empty, like on the corner of where I live, is it some type of way that I wouldn't like knock you guys out of, your rotation by saying, hey, can I throw a couple of groceries in there? Is that something that you guys allow?
Absolutely. That is the primary way that our fridges are filled through community donation. We love it. It's so helpful.
Okay, great.
We're not policing.
Okay.
The whole thing is give and take in exchange, full circle for everybody. Like we say, even if you know anybody needs to eat or you need to eat too. So yeah, we don't do that.
Okay, great.
The goal is really to get the community to start to take responsibility for each other and care for each other, So if we can't get to them because of 2 feet of snow, then people who rely on the fridge aren't just totally stuck out there with no food, because their community has recognized that people are accessing that fridge and they need that food. And maybe they'll be able to pull something out of their fridge and help out, or their pantry, or make a trip to the store, That's really really the bigger goal. We're just kind of the conduit for that.
Okay.
Can I say something? Yeah, I just want to make sure people understand, like, we're really trying to create a culture around community, like true community engagement, which means that we're not gatekeepers. We don't dictate. We have certain rules to make sure that we're operating safely, and we create a relationship of trust. But at the end of the day, it's like a book pantry or a library, where you can we want everyone to feel included, and it's important. The more people are engaged individually with this, the better. So that's why, like Ramon brought up earlier, this is a national movement. Mutual aid is something as old as mankind. And we're just trying to reiterate that during this time of urgent need and connecting each other. And it's been beautiful to watch this wave across the country. This is really important to remember that, like, you can interact with this without actually even communicating with us. There's tons of people that work on these sites and volunteer and do donations regularly that we don't meet unless we're on site. And so these town halls are really to engage and to allow people to understand we're coming with, it's like a welcome mat. It's not a vendor. We just want you to know that we appreciate what you can do and when you can do it, and there's just no gatekeeping and or policing on these sites. It's a different way of thinking, I know, and from what we're used to, but it's important. This is charity. We're not operating from a charity model at all. So we also need that engagement to understand what the community needs, because we don't want to dictate that as well. So the larger we get, the more interaction we can have with each other.
Okay, and then I have one more short question. I am a small business owner. I own a cosmetic line. I have been gathering donations for different organizations. The last organization that I partnered with, they did need approval to like put their logo on a flyer of what people could be donating to as far as foods, canned goods, sleeping bags, blankets, different things like that. Are you guys, I know it's an open community thing. Are you guys the same way? Like, would I be able to say, hey, I'm starting up some donations to go to this foundation? Would you guys be okay with putting the logo on the flyer, or is it something you need approval for?
We'd have to talk more about that and bring that within the group, especially dealing with the fact that you're asking for like a logo and things like that to be included. So that would have to be something we talk to as a group.
And so we'd be happy to talk about it.
Okay.
I wanted to quickly answer Leah's question about our experiences with older people. Generally speaking, we do not we don't have permits for these fridges, right? This is rogue, this is anarchy. Like, we're really truly winging it. And we love that about this experience. All of our fridges are on private property, so we don't really have a problem with the city. We've had one instance with Eddie. I think Eddie was in this meeting. I don't know if he's still here. Where his alderman put a citation on the fridge, basically saying it needs to have a lock. On
Not
it.
as alderman, the city.
The city, great, yes. It was a streets and sanitation citation. But basically, by lock, all they meant was a child lock. So we put a child lock on the fridge. People may or may not lock it when they're done using the fridge. That's not our problem. But that's really the only issue that we've had. Most of the older people are very supportive of the fridges, and as far as other city issues, we really haven't seen much. So hopefully that helps.
I have a question. I'm currently volunteering at the Pilsen fridge, and I've run into some issues, just people coming up to me and talking to me, and that's great. And I love that. That's not the issue. The issue has been that they've come up to me and complained about other people in the community taking advantage of the fridge. There was one instance where they said a guy was taking everything from the fridge and going across the street to the supermarket and selling the goods outside the supermarket. And then today when I was cleaning up the fridge, there's, I heard of another woman who is basically just clears everything out, and she comes in the mornings and does all this. What do we do in that instance? I know you don't want to police the fridges and everything, but as a volunteer, when someone comes up to you and says that, how should you respond, and what's the next point of action you should take?
Well, as we say, we don't judge and we're not police. We literally are doing food rescue. And while this may be true in individual incidents, it's not our place to make judgment or to be punitive. So it's part of this system. It's just part of it. We don't know where any of this food is going. So, and a lot of times you find this is something national. It's a national conversation. Some people are going to come up to you regularly due to food trauma and the like from their own personal experiences. So they reflect differently. And while some of this may be true, I often think that there's more that we don't know than we will ever know. So so sometimes when we see people taking large amounts of things, I have no idea if they're actually taking it to people who are disabled or homebound, or if they're actually selling it to people like that. I do find it amazing that someone's able to sell rescued food and make a profit from it. If that's the case, then then good on them, because we're not the cops and there's nothing we can't penalize people. At the end of the day, we need to spend our energy on getting resources out there. So it's sad to think that someone might be in a scarcity model, might be operating that way, but it's not surprising. I hope that makes sense. It's just part of the equation when dealing with large amounts of people, that there are going to be those that operate differently than we would than what's optimal.
Manny, can I add to that?
Please do.
I also I think something that we settle on is that those actions and those behaviors are driven by food insecurity. And that's what we're here for. That's what we're trying to put a Band-Aid on a very gaping, bleeding wound. And so we can't control other people's behavior, and we have to be empathetic to why that might be happening. And exactly to Manny's point, how much money could they possibly be making on this reclaimed food? But then, so the question is, you're being asked about it, and I understand that, Dawn. I get it, because I'm a host and I get questions about it too. Like, I see so and so taking all this food, and my response is, I don't dictate someone else's need, and if they're taking that food, then that's what they're gonna do. And then when I hear about someone selling it, because I have received that direct question, or like that complaint, someone is taking this food and he's selling it, and I've asked, how much do they make? you know, like, because these are like kind of neighbors for me, because they are my neighbors. They're using the fridge and when I say my fridge, I'm hosting this fridge. It's a community fridge. But it's still my neighbors in my community that are taking from this fridge. And so I can kind of interact with them as a neighbor. And I'd say, oh, well, how much do they make? You know, I'm curious. And nothing, you know, like, oh, well, he probably didn't make anything. And I was like, right. And I imagine he probably took it home and ate it or shared it with his family or whomever is in his life. But I don't need to go into that hypothetical too deep. I don't need to engage in that too far. I know you're just a volunteer, and I don't mean to say you're just a volunteer, but you're there to volunteer and support and to help, not to engage in these hypotheticals and interactions. So I think really what I settle on is, you know, these actions are being driven by food insecurity. I'm not going to dictate anyone else's need. I hope that helps.
No, it does. Thank you so much. It does help. I just don't know. I just didn't know what to say in those circumstances and what to do. So that's why, and this has happened to me 3 times now.
Sure.
I want.
We've had feedback from that fridge, so we're aware, and the mutual aid groups that manage that fridge are also aware, and they've spent a lot of time in the community kind of talking to the people who are complaining about this individual or group of individuals, and just really letting them know that, like, you know, food insecurity is a real thing. This is trauma talking. It's just as much as the person who may be emptying everything out to attempt to sell it is also coming from a place of trauma. So are the people who are concerned about seeing that, you know. So we just try to stay compassionate to everybody and let them know that, like, basically it's unfortunate that you're feeling like you can't get what you want, or the community can't get what they want. And it does cause kind of a cycle of other people being like, oh, I'm here when this food gets here, let me take more than I need because somebody else might come along and take it all. We expect this process of unlearning that habit and realizing that there is plenty. Scarcity is a manufactured thing. We expect that to be a long-term project. So we don't anticipate fixing that in a day or 2 or a year or 2. So we really just try to come with an open, loving heart and say, like, I'm sorry you're experiencing that, and just hold space for that person. And that's it. You don't have to answer for the person who took anything.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Don. Thank you for for all the help you do. And it is something that a discussion that happens regularly. And I didn't mean to be real curt about it, but it's definitely something it's very complicated. And it's just important that people recognize that you're there as a volunteer and not and not an overseer. So that's something we're trying to work on. And the only way that I know we can do that is by just having community interaction. So if you do have time and space, I appreciate it, but we don't expect you guys to have to fill all of that either, you know, because it can be a lot just being out there alone in general, you know.
I appreciate what everyone said, and that helps a lot. So thank you.
I wanted to make sure that we hit Eden's question. Eden, did you have a question or something to say?
Yes, I did have a question. So I'm doing a service learning project, and we have to research racism in the food system. So I know you have like some food pantries on the south side, and you're trying to move more there. But is there anything like specific that you do to try to help with racism in the food system?
That's a big question.
The very last few words, anything trying to help? What was the last few words?
Racism in the food system.
With apartheid.
Yeah, well, when we have an opportunity, which we get frequently, and this is just a side note, we do get a lot of press, and all of us have talked to the press and been interviewed at some time or another. A lot of times the press will say things like food deserts, and one thing we like to do in our communication with them is change that language from food desert to food apartheid, because a desert is a naturally occurring phenomenon, and food apartheid, not having grocery stores, not having access to real food in the neighborhood, is man-made. That's completely manufactured and made by policies and redlining and on purpose. So we'd like to try to change that conversation. That's just in the most basic way to answer your question. But we do aim to put refrigerators and pantries in neighborhoods that are absolutely without, the Austin neighborhood just before Christmas had its only grocery store closed, which is mind boggling. It's a huge neighborhood. So, we're really, really trying to get a fridge or 5 into the Austin neighborhood by this spring and summer. We just need to find the right partners. So yeah, we would love if anybody has any leads or anything like that, please shoot us some emails. If you know of a neighborhood that doesn't have good access to food, but has possibly a host or 2, let us know. Reach out to us via email.
Also,
But we can try to answer your question a little bit more in an email too to help you out, because I know you're doing a project for school, right?
Yes, I can put my email in the chat.
perfect.
Thanks.
We also are redistributing funds towards Black, Brown, Indigenous chefs and also farmers. We've been doing that. The current initiative now is Full Circle, and it's not exclusive to those mentioned, but that's our highlight. And a lot of us that co-found and sparked the group are from those communities. We definitely relate. I personally can relate to Indigenous and African diaspora, and it's a highlight coming from South Shore, South Chicago, Ashburn, et cetera, neighborhoods, that these spaces, and when Pilsen, for example, these spaces, we help to redistribute funds to Black, Brown, Indigenous chefs to help get food into the fridges, and also help them to, especially with this pandemic going on, to help them sustain their business, their practice, and try to amplify those spaces as well. That's another example.
Awesome. I feel like we could keep talking forever. I truly hate to cut it off, but I think our session will expire. But if you have any other questions about signing up or anything, email us, DM us. Our messages are open. We love to answer questions. We love to talk to you. If you need any of the links that we've put in this chat, we'll save the chat. And yeah, we really, really look forward to having all of you on the ground with us. There's nothing more satisfying than driving around a bunch of food and giving it to people who are super freaking stoked to have it. It is the best feeling in the world. Yeah, so just thank you so much for coming out tonight. We look forward to meeting all of you IRL.
So because I have the kill switch, I haven't ended this meeting yet. Lisa, I'm sorry if we missed your question. What is it? Can we answer your question for you? Everyone, sign off if you wish to sign off. That's totally fine.
Hi,
Lisa.
I appreciate it.
Lisa.
You know what? More than you like my background, I'm in San Francisco.
Kill your fantasy. What do you got?
I just wanted to introduce myself. I help manage one of the fridges at the Armitage and Kedzie fridge in Logan Square. But outside of that, I work for Green City Market, and I'm very interested in discussing with you your partnership with What's Good. I'm intimately involved with them as with FMC. So I'm pretty intimately involved with the South Loop Market as well. And we would just love to talk to you more about opportunities for access and how you're getting your food. And just any partnerships that we can certainly can do this offline. I just signed up for the Slack messaging. I have Slack. We interact with that with Green City, so I can message you all offline. But just wanted to introduce myself and really excited to hear about all of this really great stuff. So thank you for taking the time to let me speak, James. I appreciate it.
Sure thing. All right. Well, then thank you, Lisa, for introducing
Yeah,
yourself.
absolutely. I look forward to speaking to you guys further.
Absolutely. So Amanda, Risa, close it out. I'll stop interrupting.
Thank you, everybody, so much for your time tonight. Yeah, like Amanda said, we really look forward to working with you. If you need some direction and some guidance and some ideas about ways that you can help and jump in, feel free to email us. The best way to get involved when you email, like the quickest way to get some answers, is to email us with sort of like what you have to give in terms of food distribution. Do you have an SUV or a car? What days and what times are you available? That kind of thing. That'll really just like cut down on some of the back and forth emails. Then we'll be able to figure out where we can start working you in, because we're super excited to have all of you. And with fridge management, just hit those links and, jump in and start cleaning some fridges.
Awesome. Thank you again, guys. It was so nice to see you all. Have a good night.
Good night, everyone. Love and bless.
Good night, and thank you, everyone.
Night. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Good night.
Peace.
guys are so awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
all.
Peace,
Thanks,
everybody.
everybody. Peace.